Okay, in this lesson, we're going to look at histograms. If we put that heading down, please, histograms. Many people just think of histograms as being posh bar charts. They are like bar charts, but they are different in one important way. We'll look at that later on. Now, I don't want you to copy this table down, first of all, but what I've got here is a table showing you how much money some people earn in a week. And this is in pounds. So we've got the amount of money from no pounds up to £100, up to but not including £100, 3 people. £100 up to £200, but not including 200, 4 people, and so on. You can see that information given to you there quite clearly. If I was going to put that into a bar chart, now I'm just going to do this very, very quickly. I will need along here 0 to 2000. So my 1000 will be about here, just doing a very quick sketch diagram. Money there, frequency up the side. Frequency needs to go to 8. So I need to put on 100, I need to put on 200, I need to put on 800. There we go. I need a bar then from 0 to £100. The bar will be 3 high, so that will look like that. A bar from 100 to 200, 4 high. That bar would probably look like that. They're meant to be equal width there, by the way. Not a brilliant drawing. £200 to £800 a day, 6 of them. 6 will be up here somewhere. So that will go there, something like that. Next one, 800 to 1,000, 8 people. So that will go like that. And the final one, 1,000 to 6,000, 6 people. Sorry, 1,000 to 2,000, 6 people. That will go again like that. And I will get that as a bar chart. Now, that can be quite misleading, because if you look at what I've got here, this one here, the area of this is probably bigger than the area of this one. If I sort of chop that one up and said, okay, that bit there matches up with that bit there, and then this bit here matches up with, well, only a little bit of that one, this box over here has got a bigger area than this one here, when actually it's standing for less people. And this can happen when you draw a bar chart where the class widths are not equal. You should really never do a bar chart if these class widths are not equal. You should instead do a histogram. And what I'm going to show you in a minute is how to do a histogram and what the key difference is. Now, the absolute key to histograms is this, that the height of any bar of a histogram is equal to the frequency, which is how many times it happened, divided by the width of the bar. If you can write that down and highlight that, the teacher may just want to pause for a minute. The height is equal to the frequency divided by the width. That's the key thing. Now, if you do a little bit of algebra on here, if you want, write it down just as letters like that. Height is frequency divided by width, or you could write it down like that with the over for the divide. If I wanted to get f on its own, think of this as an equation a minute. If I wanted to get the f on its own, I've got to shift this dividing w. What's the opposite of dividing w? How do I get rid of that? Timesing it on the other side. So I can get this. Effectively, I've times here both sides by w. Height times by width equals frequency. That's what that's telling me. Now, if you have any bar, any rectangle at all, the height and the width, if you times the height by the width together, that gives you the area. So on a histogram, the area actually represents the frequency. And that's the key thing on a histogram. It's not the height that actually tells you how many people there are, it's the area. So you should already have written down that height equals frequency divided by width. Can you now write down underneath that frequency is shown by area, not by height. So that's the other of the two key things. Frequency is shown by area, and we should have height is frequency divided by width. So if you can make sure both of those are written down. And now, using what we've just done, let's go back to the example we had here. we're going to need some extra columns. We're going to need a width column of how wide these groupings are. 0 to 100, 100 wide. 100 to 200, 100 wide. 200 to 800, 600 wide. 800 to 1000, 200 wide. 1000 to 2000, 1000 wide. We will always need a width column. Then we need a height column, and I suggest you always write down the height, and just remember it's frequency divided by width. So I'd actually put here it's frequency divided by width. So what I've got to do here is do the sum. Frequency divided by width. 3 divided by 100 is 0.03. Frequency divided by width. 4 divided by 100, 0.04. 6 divided by 600, 0.01. 8 divided by 200, and yet if this is too challenging for you, you can go to a calculator. Shouldn't have to though. 0.04. 6 divided by 1000, try and get some focus a minute for you. 6 divided by 1000, 0.006. Now, those will be our heights, and you often get small decimal numbers. Don't worry about that. So, I'm just going to do a sketch now, but if you were doing this properly, you would need to do it really, really accurately. So I'm going to do just like I did before, really. But up the side, I will not label it frequency. I will label it up the side frequency density. And that's always very important. You always need to label a vertical axis of a histogram frequency density, because that's really important. I actually want you to copy down this set of axes now and label that vertical axis there frequency density. The teacher may need to pause at this point. So our frequency density, highest number we've got here is actually 0.04. So that would be 0.02, 0.01, 0.03. And along the bottom, I'm going from 0 to 2000. Again, this really needs to be done accurately to scale. 1000 will be there. So 100 would be, well, it's 500. 1, 2, 3, 4. 100 would probably be there. 200 would probably be there. 1000, 6, 7, 8, 9. 800 would be about there. So you would need to do this accurately on square paper or graph paper. But just to show you what would happen, I'm just going to do this one quickly now. And the first bar from 0 to 100 has a height of 0.03. So that would be a bar looking like that. I ought to also label along here, this is money in pounds. Now, the next one is a bar from 100 to 200 has a height of 0.4. So that would go somewhere like that. Next bar, 200 to 800, a height of 0.1. Now this is where things start to look different compared with the last one we drew, and I'll show you that last one again in a minute. And here, 800 to 1000, a height of 0.04. So that one's back up here again. And the final one, 1000 to 2000, a height of 0.06. Well, hang on, let's have a think a minute. That's 0.01. That's the same as 0.010. 0.006, well, that will be somewhere about here, 0.006. So this bar will be going over there, something like that. Now, if you look at the shape of that one, and just compare that one with the shape we had of the first one we did, the shape is very different. Because what's happened now is the areas of each of these 5 blocks, the areas correspond with these frequencies. So you should actually have the area of the third block and the area of the 5th block should be equal. So what I'm saying here is the area of that rectangle and the area of that rectangle are equal because it's representing equal frequencies. If you think about it, it seems fair. But on here, the third block and the second block had equal heights, and this one had a much bigger area. So this was a bar chart done badly. Never do one of those again. This is a histogram which is done correctly. Now, you've already written down these key points. What I want you to do now is to actually copy down the table, and the teacher in a minute, when I say so, will pause it. When you copy the table down, Make sure you get these inequality signs correct. So I'll zoom in so you can get that there. So the table from 0 to 100, it's including the number on the left, not including the number on the right. We have a frequency column, a width column, and if you're not clear where that comes from, it's the end number here, take away the start number. So 200 take away 100 is 100. Over here, the height is the frequency divided by the width. And if then, using graph paper or square paper, but not a freehand drawing like mine, it needs to be much better than mine when you do it for yourself, I would like you also to draw the diagram that you can see on the board. So when you do it, choose your scale sensibly. You need to go up to 0.04. You could maybe go 4 big squares or 8 big squares. And you need to go along from 0 to 2000. You may be able to go along 10 centimeters and use a suitable scale for that. So what you'll need to do, please, is copy the table down and copy this down really, really carefully.